Alright, we had some camera issues, so I was drawing all this stuff up. It looks like the camera didn't pick it up because it locked up, so I'm on a different camera. Alright, so let's start out from where we were. The type of signals, remember what a signal is. You have your signal coming in. In this case, this is the power coming in, 110, 60 hertz. Comes into your radio. First thing it does is the radio converts it from 110, 60 hertz to a 10 volt-ish, something like this, DC. So AC, DC. Okay, so that's a power converter. Now the power converter is just like your wall charger for your cell phone. That's a power converter. That converts 110 to 5 volts. Okay. If you look on the back, it'll say 110 AC, 5 volts DC. In this case, it's 10 volts. Okay. So we got 10 volts coming in to power your unit. All right. This sends out a radio frequency at 60 hertz. This sends out a radio frequency of zero, of nothing, because DC does not send out any type of signal. Okay. Remember, I was talking about the engine. I'm sorry. When you first turn this something on, you'll hear it on the AM radio go click. You turn it off, it goes click. Right? Well, that is the electromagnetic wave of turning on and off. Okay, but here it's turning on and off 60 times a second. That's your 60 hertz hum, like that, right? So we take how does a radio work? I mean, what is a radio? How does it work? What do you care about, right? So you're sitting here. This is your little radio, and this is your little antenna right here. Okay, so you're sitting there listening to your tunes on your AM radio, just say you're doing it, and you're getting sound out. Okay, where are you getting that sound? Well, there's a guy over here in town speaking into a microphone. His microphone goes into his equipment, which then modulates that, which we're talking about the signal. We'll talk about modulation in just a second. This signal gets transmitted from his antenna, goes terrestrially, that's TR, or T, terrestrially from his antenna in town to your antenna on your little box. Okay? Then it gets converted back into sound. Okay? So sound, electric, sound. That's what it's trying to do. Okay, well, what is satellite radio? Is it any different? No, it's the same thing. In fact, it works on FM. I believe it's working on FM, but it's FM and it's digitized. That's another level of problems. So, what a satellite one does, this guy speaks into his microphone just like that guy. But this guy's in your town. This guy could be almost anywhere in the United States, anywhere where where you can see the satellite and he can see the satellite. What he does, he transmits, and his goes up to the satellite. Satellite then increases the signal and sends it back down to your satellite antenna, most likely in your car. Okay, and then your car radio converts it into sound. All right, so there's still radio frequencies. There's still antennas. If you know much about your car antenna, it's about this big. Okay, the smaller the antenna, the higher the frequency is. The bigger the antenna, the lower the frequency is. Now, there's also the fact of how much power you want on that. We'll talk about that later when we get into the antennas. So what we're just trying to figure out, how does this signal get from here to here? So this is really what we're talking about right here. We won't go through the satellite much. Just realize it's the same thing going up the satellite. So there's two ways to do this. So you got your power coming in. There's a frequency coming in on here, and that frequency is going to be there all the time. So if that signal never changed, you get nothing out here, okay? Because you need some way to modulate that signal so that the radio can interpret the sound out of it, okay? That frequency is going to always be there, okay? So we're going to get the signal in here. Where's I going with that? We're going to get the signal in here. We're going to modulate it or interpret it, and we're going to send it out to this speaker here, and you're going to hear sound, right? So this guy right over here, he says hi. Goes in the microphone, goes up into the tower through the electronics, goes across the air, comes into your antenna and comes out your speaker goes high, right? Okay, so we want this thing to, out of your speaker to go high, right? Well, how does it interpret that? If there's a certain frequency and the frequency doesn't change, or not much, enough to where it filters it, like how does it know? So this speaker here has an electric signal, and it's going to look like this, high. There's little jiggies and stuff. If you ever look at it on an oscilloscope, it's a little, it'll go high like that. Okay, so this is what this looks like. Well, it doesn't look like that signal at all. How do you make that signal look like that signal? This signal pretty much looks like this. Now there's going to be little changes in it, but you can't really see them too much. So how do you make this, put this signal into this and still have it work? You've got to modulate that frequency, or I'm sorry, you got to modulate that signal one way or another. You've got AM and you've got FM. AM is amplitude modulation. Write this down. So that's amplitude modulation. FM is frequency. Now what was frequency again? Oscillations per second, right? This is 60 hertz. You're going to find out that the signals coming in across here are much higher than 60 and 50 and whatever, right? We'll talk about that in a second. There's ranges of frequencies that the FCC has designated for certain types of work, okay? AM has certain frequencies, FM has different frequencies. Ham radio have different frequencies. Satellite has different frequencies. They all have a band of frequencies they work with, and they're very expensive to buy, by the way. So we've got AM, FM, and satellite. Satellite is actually an FM frequency bounced off a satellite. So what the heck does AM mean? Amplitude modulation. You have this signal coming in at a certain frequency. Let's look at something here real quick. All right. So this is what we got here. Here we go. We got an old cassette radio. Dug this out. And if you look, hopefully, let me see if you can see the frequencies here. Yeah, right about there. Okay, so there you got FM. It goes 88 to 108 megahertz. You got FM, which is 540 to 1600 kilohertz. Okay, that is your frequency range of signals. This is how your frequency chart looks. So you've got zero. Frequency here is 0. That's DC, right? So somewhere here, let's go to AM. AM goes 540 kilohertz. Kilohertz, 1,000 K, right? Megahertz, 1 million, right? So AM is 1540 to 1600. So no, it's not. Wait, it's not 1540. 540. Ooh, missed that. So 540 to 1600 kilohertz. Okay. Kilohertz. Alright, so this right here, from here to here, is AM frequencies. If you're an AM station, you're going to be in the middle of that. Alright, FM is, if you look at here, it's less than that, but it's 88 to 108 megahertz. It's a little wider than that, we'll just call it that. So you got 88 up here. It's probably more like here, 88 megahertz to 108, sorry. 108 megahertz. Alright. So this is FM. Well, ham radio I will look up in a second. But over here, ham radios are actually in between these two. And I'll look up what they are. Ham radio. There's something to something, right? And then over here you've got satellite. Yeah, let's make sure we know what we're looking at. AM. So it's just this frequency range. And these are set up. They're set up so you don't actually talk over each other and everything works correctly. You don't want some guy putting AM in the middle of this band because he's going to mess it up, right? That's FM, right? You don't want ham radio transmitting on AM. He's going to mess up somebody else's signal. So All of these signals are controlled through the FCC. Okay? I have to hold it this way. So this is what's known as the shortwave radio. If you look real hard, it's got a lot more different frequencies in it. It can do, if you look right here, I don't even quite see that, but you got citizens band, you got AM, you got shortwave, you got FM, FM TV, which doesn't exist anymore, UHF, VHF, air traffic. So this is what we got. AM is 530 to 1700 is actually kilohertz. We got citizens band, which is CB, truck drivers, which is 4.5 to 6 megahertz is what it looks like. Shortwave is, citizens band is, 1 through 40 channel, and it just says, it doesn't say the frequency. Interesting. Shortwave is 4.5 to 6 megahertz, and then there's a shortwave 2, which is 7 to 12 megahertz. Okay, I believe that's where the ham radio sits. FM broadcast 88 to 108 megahertz. We've already talked about. FM broadcast. TV broadcast is, which doesn't do much. It's all digitized now. TV used to be able to listen on this thing. TV is just those channels. It doesn't tell you what frequencies on here. Marine VHF 1.5 to 175 megahertz, and weather doesn't tell you. So anyway, there's all these ranges. All these ranges go within these things. So assuming shortwaves 4.5 to 12 megahertz. So assuming that that's there, so 4.5 to 12 megahertz. Let's put that in there. I believe this is it. Don't comment if I'm wrong on this. 4.5 to what was it? Got terrible numbers. 12 megahertz. That's meg. That's ham radio or shortwave. 1 and 2. Okay. Now these you can buy on eBay used. I don't know if you can get good ones anymore. So I would buy a used one on eBay. This is a Radio Shack. It's a pretty nice one. Picks up most stuff. We're talking right now just about receivers. Now if you're a ham radio operator, that means you can transmit. You have to have the license. Okay. So you're going to transmit, which again, I believe it's in this range. We'll check that out later. So what a ham radio operator is, it receives, but he also has a transmitter. And he's going to do the same thing this guy's doing, except for he has his own little station over here. So ham radio, if he's a ham radio operator, he's going to transmit his own stuff to other little ham radio guys somewhere else. Now, these frequencies, you're going to find out, can go a certain distance in the day, and then DA wide, right? Can go a certain distance in the day to another ham radio operator with a little ham radio, and sometimes at night, there's a lot less radio frequencies. The sun creates all these frequencies too, so it creates a lot of noise inside this range. At night, that all goes away. So at night, a lot of times, you can actually transmit and receive, by the way, shortwave radios too. Same thing, works the same way. Further into this guy's in another country. And sometimes you can be way in another country because you bounce it off of the atmosphere. So this guy could be in Moscow. Now, not necessarily you want to talk to some guy in Moscow, but he might want to talk to you. It's sort of fun, something like that. This guy could be in Moscow. This guy could be across the country like New York. Right? So you can pick up and transmit depending on how tall your antenna is, how powerful your unit is. It's all, it's all that type of thing, and where you are and what the sun's doing. So day, night. It's not writing right. Night. There. Okay, so evening. I should say evening. Whatever. So that's basically how the frequencies work. Now, how do you actually amplitude? So over here, this is going to be AM. This is AM. This is FM. This is Satellite's going to be FM, I'm pretty sure. I haven't looked this up. If you have a comment, let me know. I believe that's FM. Amplitude modulation is where you modify the height of this signal to make this signal, to mix the two signals. So what you have, so you're going to have an oscillator. What's an oscillator? It creates a signal. Oscillates at a frequency, okay? So what the transmitter does, transmitter, he takes a signal in at a certain frequency, and he also takes the voice in, which says hi. Well, he's going to mix these two signals, and then he's to create a new signal, which it's going to go, and then it's going to go a little higher. Now I'm exaggerating. So in the middle, it's going to go. It's going to modulate the volume or the height of that signal. Okay, so it adds these two signals together, creates a signal that has the extra above it, and that's called amplitude modulation because you're changing the amplitude. Over at the receiver, it's going to take that signal that's the receiver. Over at the receiver, you're going to take this signal and then you're going to split it back out into, well, you don't really care. You already know what this signal is. It's just a signal. Okay? What you're really trying to do is filter out this. So you're going to take this filter, through a filter. This is an additive. This is a combiner. I believe I forgot. There's a name for it. I forgot, combiner or something like that. We'll call it a combiner, whatever. Then here you're going to filter, not F, filter it, and get your signal back out high, right? It goes back here. So here it's coming in as a frequency. Here you're going to filter it. Here it's coming out as a high, and here's your sound saying hi. Okay, so that's your basic idea of radio frequencies and how they use them. So amplitude is so you got this sinusoidal wave, and it's going to modulate or change in amplitude, right? So here you're going to go, your high is going to go D, 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 D. Okay, this is a little bit higher this time, right? And it might be even a little lower this time, right? So that dotted signal is what's going to be added to the regular signal. So that's how you're modulating it, okay? You're going to come back in, you're going to filter that out. Now what's FM? This one is very noisy, picks up everything, picks up your car humming, picks up the power, picks up somebody turning on a light, everything. So you go pop, pops. There's a lot of pops and noises in here. FM, how do you get rid of some of that? You do it by frequency modulation. So what frequency modulation, and it works the same way. It's just that you're not going, your filters work exactly different. You're going to be modulating the frequency, not the amplitude. Okay, so this is modulating up and down, right? FM, make sure you can see FM on the camera. Can you see FM? Yeah, you can. Good. Still recording? Yeah. FM, you have a frequency, right? You got a frequency, standard frequency. What FM does is it modulates the frequency instead of the amplitude. So your amplitude is going to be the same no matter what. So that means if there's something added, like somebody turns on the light, it goes blip blip, it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter if it goes up or down here. It's not going to filter that out. It only filters the change in frequency. Okay? So if we're going to add this signal here, you'll end up looking something like this. It'll modulate the frequency slower or faster based off of the extra amount that you're adding to it. Okay? So we're adding right in the center. So let's go like this. Here's our high signal, right? It's spikies and whatever, right? So here, what's going to happen is it's going to increase the frequency. It's going to speed it up and then slow it down comparatively. So with this added to it, it goes like this. So it just changed that frequency. Now, it doesn't go back to where it was. It stays there, and this becomes the new frequency. And it goes back to this. So it modulated that frequency to add this signal so that you can filter it out later. So you can tell the filter is going to be different depending on AM and FM, but the sound is going to be the same. So the sound coming out of that speaker is still going to say hi. Okay. So remember, AM amplitude modulation, FM frequency modulation. I believe, again, I'm not a ham radio expert. Clarify it. If you guys in the comments, go ahead and comment on this. I believe ham radios are AM modulated. Now, maybe there's some FM modulated frequencies that ham radios can do too. Don't know. I'm not sure. This is something that I'm going to be looking into, but I haven't looked into yet. Okay, so this is the theory of how radio frequency works. How do you get your sound? Hello, your people singing, all that stuff out of your speaker, because all you care about is this little speaker. But all this stuff happens before the speaker. Okay. So let's see. Well, that's it for this installment. What we're going to do next time, we're going to actually talk about antennas and lengths and how they work.